Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to see what it is we can expect to happen and what it is we should be doing in the end times. And as we've gone through this book, we've made it to chapter 17. And in chapter 17 and 18 beholds the mysteries of the harlot, of Babylon, of the beast. And we've gone through the harlot for quite a bit, and of course there's more to say about that. But as we go through verse by verse, last time we talked about the mystery. This time we're going to talk about Babylon. So we're just going to pick it up right where we left off, and we're just going to start in Revelation 17, starting verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth commit fornication, the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. He carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand the golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abomination of the earth. We spent at least 3 episodes talking about the harlot and all these aspects of what John sees there. And we talked about what mysteries are and how we can interpret those. But this time we're going to talk about Babylon, because Babylon is a greatly misunderstood thing. And if you were to ask, I don't know what the percentage, I've never seen a survey, but I'm just basing this on my own experience. If you asked a pastor, I'd say about 90% of pastors, and you said, where is Babylon? They'd say, well, Babylon is, there'll just be this rebirth of this ancient city that's a desolate ghost town right now, but somehow it'll become the commerce of the earth, it'll become the harlot of the earth, it'll become the whore of the earth. It'll become this satanic thing, and that's just not what Babylon is. I mean, I know there was a city called Babylon, but that's not what the biblical Babylon is. It's the spirit of Babylon. And to fully understand that, I mean, if you were to just do a study search on the word Babylon in the Bible, you could spend a long time truly trying to understand what Babylon is. So we're going to dedicate 2 episodes to it, and I'm just going to be real honest. Preparing for these next 2 videos was disturbing. Sharing what I'm about to share is disturbing. There's certain names I won't say. It's just disturbing, but it's very, very important we understand what exactly Babylon is. As we look at this mystery, Babylon. Last episode we talked about the mystery. The next 2 is Babylon. So Babylon, let's just talk, the beginnings of Babylon was the very first civilization. It was part of the very first kingdom on the earth, and it was very satanic. And Satan purposed in the hearts of the people of Babel to be about his business and not about God's business, but it all had to do with their leadership as well. So we're going to go to Genesis. Now what we're seeing here in 10 is the genealogy leading up to Abraham from Noah. And that's so incredibly important because that genealogy is ultimately going to lead to Jesus Christ, which is why genealogy is so incredibly important in the Bible. And what we see is Moses had Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And Ham had a weird situation. I won't get into it. The words are he saw his nakedness of his father. But then God cursed him for that. He became the Philistines, and he became this wicked nation. All those people that are against God's people, the Canaanites, came from Ham. And ultimately, a guy named Nimrod came from Ham. And we're just going to pick it up right there. It says in 10 verse 8, Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, Kilneh, and the land of Shinar. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about this description of who Nimrod is, because it says, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And a lot of people, if you ask somebody, what's that mean? I don't know if a lot of people would understand. I think they'd say that he's, it's something against God for sure, but what is that? Well, if you break the words down, ultimately, when it says mighty, that's Gibber. And that's a powerful warrior tyrant. So he's a powerful, when you see the word mighty, that means he's a powerful warrior tyrant. And then when it says that he is a mighty hunter, that's chasing a prize or a trophy. It's chasing after something. It's not necessarily you're hunting deer, but you can, that also would be that word, Sayyid. So he's a powerful warrior tyrant chasing after a prize before the Lipne, in the face of or front of God. So he's a warrior tyrant trying to get ahead of God, is what he's trying to do, led by Satan. And they ultimately, they then try to build a tower to then go above God. And I mean, we only use the Bible as reference, but there's a lot of things that you could learn about Nimrod outside the Bible. It's pretty darn creepy. But there's the spirit of Babel. It was a tyrant warrior trying to get ahead of God and trying to go and reach up to God, probably to try to kill him, is what his goal was, and then be like God and sit on the high like God. And of course, we've heard that verbiage. This is where it's going to start to get kind of twisted. But, and this is another reason why we can't do this in one episode, because there's so much to this. But we're going to go to Isaiah 14, where there's a moment in Isaiah 14:4 where he's talking about Babylon. This might be dual prophetic, but it's at least prophecy of the Babylon that took Israel hostage. But God is the same now. He does not change, and Satan's still playing his same games too. So stay with me. 14:3. Shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and the hard bondage in which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. He who struck the people in wrath with the continual stroke. He who ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and no one hinders. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were cut down, no woodsman has come up against us. So what he's saying is he's describing this safe, prosperous, beautiful place, Babylon. Let's go on. Hell from beneath is excited about you, to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you, all the chief ones of the earth. It is raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. They shall all speak and say to you, have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? Your pomp is brought down to Sheol. And ultimately, you look at our nation, 10 years ago it was the strongest nation on the planet. A lot of countries are looking at our nation and saying, are you as weak as we are now? Let's go on. And the sound of your stringed instruments, the maggot is spread under you, and worms cover you. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. I'm going to pause there for a second. Do you see what's taking place here? Right in the middle of God prophesying over the destruction of Babylon, we're now introduced to Lucifer. Let's pick it up. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of congregation on the furthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. This is what's happening. The spirit of Babylon is Satan's dominion. It is his kingdom. It doesn't have to be in Iraq. Satan is not limited to geography, and the name of Satan's kingdom is Babylon. Why else would we see it here? Why else did Nimrod and the citizens of Babel do what they did? Because they're being led by somebody who has fallen, but is trying to ascend into heaven and be like him, be above him. Let's go on. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities? Who did not open the house of his prisoners? So when you see the world getting destroyed by the Antichrist, keep in mind there'll be a moment in time where you'll look at him as the weak, pathetic thing that he is, because he's just manipulating people. His only ability is to lie to people. And when you see that taking place, and you kind of look, he's like, is that who's tried to destroy almost destroyed the world and killed all those people and almost took out Christians? That? Let's go on. All the kings of the nation, all them sleep in glory, everyone in his own house, but you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who are slain, thrust through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pit like a corpse trodden underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and slain your people. The brood of evildoers shall never be named. Prepare slaughter for his children because of the iniquities of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land and fill the faces of the world with cities. He's the destroyer of the world. He was given dominion of the earth. And he is the destroyer of the earth because he wants to be like God so bad. And then let's get back to Babylon. That's why God put him right in the middle of Babylon here. Let's continue on. For I will raise up against them, says the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and offspring and posterity, says the Lord. I will also make it a possession for the porcupines and marshes of muddy water. I will sweep it with the broom of destruction, says the Lord of hosts. What is Babylon? Satan's kingdom. That's what it is. Look at the description of Satan and watch the Antichrist do exactly that, just like Nimrod did. And just like the Antichrist will do the exact thing. A fierce warrior tyrant trying to get above God as the king of Babylon. You know, and just something I kind of want to remind you of what we just read in Isaiah is the safety aspect of it. This whole idea that you know, we're all, you know, it's just safe, we're just all out, everything's fine, we're not worried about anything, and then destruction comes. Next time we're going to specifically address the safety part of Babylon, like how do you dwell safely in Babylon, and how do you get out of Babylon? Because you know what, I'm in Babylon. If you're watching this, I mean, you're probably in Babylon too. You're in it. Accept it. You're in Babylon. Accept it. I mean, unless you're somewhere like, I mean, if you're in Israel watching this, you're not in Babylon. But if you're in America, Europe, Canada, you're in Babylon. Headquartered primarily in the United States of America. Fitting the exact description of the harlot. You guys, I hope this video's helping. We're going to go right back into, I mean, it's important to understand how the destruction comes and what that looks like is the next episode. Because understanding the spirit of Babylon and what Babylon is critical to it. And as we then move forward and we start to talk about the beast and the destruction of Babylon, we have that clarity of what it is that's getting destroyed and who's getting destroyed, why they're getting destroyed, and what it is they've done to get destroyed, and who's really running the show. So I hope this video helps. What is Babylon? It's the kingdom of Satan is what it is. Love to hear your thoughts on all that. Put in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel through Patreon. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.